I stepped outside and it's pouring with rain. I wore my jacket, not my raincoat, so getting a little bit wet, but that's all right. Sydney in October.
Start of a new week, just checking ahead on the calendar, and I'm going to be much more proactive with my vlogging this week, so hold me to account. Let's see if we can do this. 3 board meetings this week, so it's a big week, which is probably right. It's the 3rd week of the month, so I've got Austral today, Triple S, first board meeting for that board, so that's awesome. Tomorrow, Friday, ticketless board meeting. Really need to kind of get myself in the zone and focus on that. Going to be doing my best through the process to make sure I'm capturing it along the way. I need to remember the purpose, right? This is all just about giving some exposure to what this process looks like, vlogging it along the way to make sure that we're capturing all the moments, hopefully mostly highs, hopefully vulnerable enough to kind of show the lows. So Monday morning, let's get going. So one of the vlog types I was looking up the other day, it said that finding magic in the mundane. So here's an experiment. There's lots of mundane in this process of entrepreneurship through acquisition, whether you're the CEO entrepreneur or whether you're the investor board director. But for example, you spend a lot of time dealing with banks. One of the things that you often have to do is fill out forms. And for some reason, even in this age of tech, we're still printing things out, signing them in wet ink, scanning them back in again, and sending them back to the bank. So check this out. I'm going to document the process of applying for a new approval signature on a bank account. Print. Printing all 3 documents. Printed off like 20 pieces of paper, signed 3 of them, scanned back in 20 pieces of paper to email them back so then the bank can verify me for 3 accounts. And then I'm going to take all this paper, put it back in my printer, upside down, reuse it again for another probably useless process. Sure, I get it. Internal controls are important. Wet ink, I don't know, is that better proof of identity than all the tech we got these days with DocuSign? Anyway, magic in the mundane. That's a pretty frustrating process to have to go through, but one of the examples, I guess, of the small, boring little things that are just part of that overall operational process of getting involved in smaller businesses and being in that CEO or director position. It's just stuff you got to do. So this morning I'm jumping on with John Stoddard. He runs a podcast in the US. I think he also provides some like acquisition entrepreneurship advice. And I've been on his podcast before, but he called me up the other day and said that he's going to pull together like a compilation of really short clips of a whole bunch of people from probably across the globe and get their reactions, I think in particular in relation to capital raising. So it's a 15-minute call. I'm actually really going to enjoy it because he's just going to fire questions, I imagine. I've got nothing in advance. He's just going to ask questions. I'm going to try my best to answer them. And now I think he's going to mash it all up with a whole bunch of other people and see what comes of it.
Pete, welcome back to the show. Got a big question for you today. What are your 3 big words of wisdom? Big 3 words of advice, raising capital or acquisitions.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks so much for having me again, John. It's always great to chat. And I really like this kind of quick fire approach that you're taking to this. It's putting me on the spot and making me think, okay, what would I say if someone asked me that question? For me, the first one is if I'm an investor thinking about investing in your acquisition, the first thing I want to know about is you. It's kind of in the reverse. And I guess, I do a lot of work supporting acquisition entrepreneurs, particularly through search funds. And a lot of that is about the entrepreneur themselves. So the first bit of advice that I would have is be really ready to talk about yourself and why you're the best person to take this business through its next phase of its journey. The second thing that I would say is a lot of people, when they're pitching for acquisitions, they're very quick to spend all of their time talking about the great things, the upside and all the potential that the business has, but they don't spend enough time realistically talking about the challenge ahead. So a lot of these businesses will have challenges. Transition of ownership itself is a challenge. And I think that I'm looking for someone to pitch to me who can articulate those challenges well, acknowledge the fact that it's not going to be easy, and talk about the approach that they're going to take in order to try and make their way across that process. Because if it's all just upside, then it makes me think there's got to be something missing, right? So I really want to hear about what those challenges are going to be. And the third thing I think that I'm looking for, which is a lead indicator for me as to how this person is going to approach the operation of the business post-acquisition, is I'm looking for them to be open. So I'm looking for them to be open to ask questions of me. What's my perspective? How can they learn from other people, and what might they learn from the journey itself? I think if they're open to the fact that they haven't got all the tools in the toolkit and they don't know exactly what's coming down the pipe, and there will be times when they'll need help, I think if they can somehow demonstrate that through the pitch, it'll give me a good feeling about the fact that when they do hit hurdles in the very, very important operation phase, they'll be ready and willing to come to the table and say, okay, I need help here. I've taken it this far. There's a gap in my knowledge or experience. And how am I going to get to this next step with some assistance? So yeah, in summary, I'd say be ready to talk about yourself. You're equally, if not more, important than the business itself. Secondly, don't skim over the hard stuff, because it will be hard. And thirdly, work out a way of demonstrating the fact that you're going to be open to coaching and support through the process.
Those were beautiful. Thank you so much.
No worries. Cool.
See you soon.
See you, mate. Wow, look at that. That was quick. Wow, he's right into it.
After the first half of the week, spending most of the time at home, I was working. I was doing board meetings and phone calls and that sort of stuff, but mainly from home. The next 2 days are flat out. I've actually managed to fit in like 4 or 5 meetings a day across multiple locations. So a fair bit of driving, fair bit of walking, a lot of meetings, a lot of different kind of topics and content, but I'm really looking forward to it because it's a chance to get out and get going. So meeting number 1, heading down to Double Bay to catch up with the chair of Duncan Solutions, just for a coffee, just to check in and just chat about the business and what's in store for the next phase. So yeah, tick off number 1 and then move on to the second. Catch up with the chair at Duncan went really, really well. I think one of the things that's so important, I always talk about owner's mission, right? So right at the highest level of any investment or any business, even listed entities, although I'll get into that another time, but definitely for private businesses, having real clarity around what is the mission of the current ownership group and what are they ultimately trying to achieve, and then mapping that through to the strategy of the business, I think is critical, because it should be informing all the decisions that are made at the business level. Because if it's not, then it will subconsciously, what the directors and the owners accept in terms of recommendations from management will be influenced either consciously or subconsciously by the owners or the directors' perception of what mission they think they're on. Are they trying to grow the business? Are they trying to sell the business? Are they trying to build a platform for some other purpose? Not only is it critical to understand the mission of the owners, but also get alignment there. And one thing that is really good with the discussion that I just had is that we really tried to distill down what is the mission that we're currently on and how do we continue to translate that for the executive team to provide them real clarity. Anyway, on to my next one, into the city now.